What's up, guys? In this video, I just want to give you some quick tips on how you can find more vulnerabilities as a pen tester. Now, this is going to apply no matter what area of pen testing you're in, whether you're a web app pen tester such as myself, or if you're on the network side, the IoT side, whatever it may be, right? So this advice was something that took me a bit to figure out, and even though it will stand to reason, right? It's hard to live by this, especially initially when your instincts might be fighting it a little bit, right? You might not want to apply this advice, but if you do, I can guarantee you that you will experience success more so than doing it, not following this advice, right? So let's just get right into it. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ryan from elevatecyber. Now, just to get into it, what I am speaking of here is a general mindset here. You want to think like the developer or the sysadmin or whoever is in charge of the technology that you're dealing with, whether it's the creators of the technology or the managers of the technology in the case of a sysadmin or someone configuring a piece of software, right? This is where you really need to have the empathy to put yourself in their shoes. Now, this is definitely made easier if you have an understanding of how to operate on the other side of the house, right? What I mean is if you know how to develop web apps, then it's going to be easier for you to put yourself in the shoes of a developer, to think like a developer and find these vulnerabilities. Now, with that being said, you don't have to know a lot of code. I mean, there's a lot of bug bounty hunters out there that are really successful and they don't know how to code. But it would give you a different perspective that is pretty relevant to what you're trying to accomplish, right? And by no means is this the only way. Everyone has a different approach, a different style, and it is possible to be successful as a web app pen tester even without knowing how to write code. But if you can, whatever it takes to put yourself in the mind frame of a developer, right? Whether that means you write code or whether it means you don't, you still need to think like a developer in the sense that you need to understand where these vulnerabilities can come into play most prevalently, right? And you need to understand where the user input comes in, for example, and what areas that the developer might trust that they shouldn't be trusting, right? Maybe they're not sanitizing the input or validating the input properly in these certain areas. And just putting yourself in their shoes can help you identify these more quickly and easily, right? And same thing for a sysadmin, right? What areas are common for a misconfiguration to lead to a serious vulnerability, right? If you know a little bit about system administration, whether it's Windows system administration, Linux, right, then it will allow you to more easily, be in that place of empathy to think like they think and identify these that much easier. Now, even with that being said, there's another area this manifests, and that is refer to documentation. So if you are, because here's the thing. As pen testers, we're constantly dealing with technology that we've never touched. I mean, even if you spend a lot of time coding and you spend a lot of time learning the sysadmin stuff, I guarantee you, in your career as a pen tester, you will many times come across technology you've never even touched before, especially when the latest and greatest is constantly changing and new stuff's coming out, right? You're going to be in a situation where you're dealing with some technology that you just don't have any experience with, no matter how much time you spend outside exploring these areas. So that will come inevitably, understand that. And this is where you need to think like a developer or a sysadmin, right? So for example, if you encounter, in web app pen testing, let's say, you encounter a technology that allows like a framework, a CMS or something like that, right, that you've never seen before, what you need to do is, start referring to the documentation. When you're Googling stuff, Google from the perspective of a developer And you might be surprised by what you're able to find by doing this. A lot of times you can end up finding vulnerabilities in these applications just by, thinking outside of your own box for a second and Googling things from the perspective of someone that might be working on these applications, on the software. I've seen many times in my own company where there's other people that were able to Google, something very simple as a developer, putting themselves in the developer's position, and out of that found a critical 0-day, even in some cases, vulnerabilities on various applications. So if you are dealing with something that is like a third-party off-the-shelf type thing, definitely, you're going to want to make use of the documentation of Google and things like that. I mean, even if it's an internal piece of software, maybe there's some documentation you can get your hands on, and that will give you a lot of insight into what the software, how it works, and how you can interface with it and ultimately find a vulnerability, perhaps, right? So, of course, you want to maintain your curiosity and think outside the box as a hacker. That's what we talk about all the time on this channel. The hacker mindset is certainly something that is important to keep in mind at all stages in pen testing, really. And beyond that, just persist. Absolutely persist. And that's why I always like to say, you might want to call OSCP a little bit outdated in the stuff that the exploits that you end up using and whatnot. And okay, fair enough. But one thing that is timeless is how it teaches you to persist. And that is something that I struggled with when I initially came on as a pen tester, is that I wasn't persistent enough with trying to find a vulnerability. I would too quickly move on to the next thing. And the more you get this experience, the more you're going to know when to move on and when to keep going on something. And this is a skill set that I'm still developing, of course. You're always going to be developing your skill set as a pen tester constantly, and that's part of the fun, right? You'll never know everything there is to know in security. I like to say that all the time, but yeah, it's definitely true. And it's a lot of it is a bit of a feel type of thing when it comes to when do you move on and when do you persist. But in the early stages especially, lean on the side of persisting, and you will be pretty impressed with the results. I can definitely guarantee that. So yeah, hopefully this video was of help to you guys. If so, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button as well. And if you're eager to apply this and start persisting, maybe you're interested in the OSCP. I got the videos on screen right now, what you need to know for OSCP. I'd recommend starting there. I'll see you over in those videos. Thanks for watching.